Hi, everyone. Welcome to Basic Binges, part of Nom Talk Network. On this show, we review popular shows while eating and drinking our binge-worthy snacks and drinks. If you're watching live, don't forget to redeem those channel points. Like I said last week, we are just coming back from this long hiatus because of the strike. Thankfully, it's over, but please be kind to us. I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, and right now I just ate a bunch of pizza rolls because I'm a teenager, apparently. Uh, but also, it's snowing in Colorado a bunch, so I have boozy hot chocolate, and also since the Christmas season, I have boozy eggnog. So let's see how I end off at the end of this stream. But I'm proud to and tell you guys about our guests today. We have Kyle, Julie, and Toni. Kyle, introduce yourself to everybody out there. It's been a minute.
Woo! Hi everybody. My name is Kyle. I've been doing basic binges since, gosh, it's been a while now, and I'm really, really happy to be back. I missed everyone so much. Today's snack is a them dinner because it's slices of cheese, but they're Munster cheese and they're my favorite cheeses. And then I also have caffeine because it's been a very long day. And my roommate lent me her sonic screwdriver, so we're ready to face some critters, so to speak. And I'm just really happy to be here.
Good. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Toni, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toni. Make sure that I'm not muted because I've been doing that a while. I am drinking Zephyr Hills because I'm back home in Florida, and this is I don't know what it's like the same people that bottle the same water, right? Like across, they just call it different things. Is that like
I think so. Same companies, like.
right? But for whatever reason, and it's probably just totally in my head, this just tastes better and it's my favorite. I just had Zaxby's because that's another thing that we don't do in California because we have Raising Cane's, which is fine. They just don't season the fries, which I don't understand at all, but Zaxby's does. And then if I do get peckish, I've got goldfish. So
Ooh,
yeah.
nice. Well, welcome back for this second special of Doctor Who. Julie, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie. Back for another rousing round of Doctor Who fun. And I have some more Doctor Who themed food. I got some fish fingers and custard. It's frozen custard, but it still counts. Okay, actually, I need to change my background to not blurry. I don't know if I like that. But anyway, frozen custard. And I've also got some chips because that seemed appropriate as well, or as we in America like to call them fries or waffle fries. And I'm just drinking water tonight because I didn't feel like being fancy, but water, good old H2O. So yeah.
Nice, nice. I'm excited to see what you bring next week again. I just want you to top and top and top and top. So
Okay, I will try to top it next week. We gotta
cool.
gotta figure out what I could do next week for sure. Oh, I just had an idea. Okay, but I'm not gonna tell you. It's gonna be a surprise.
Yay, I'm excited. But thank you all for being here today. Today we are talking about episode 2 of the 60th anniversary Doctor Who special, Wild Blue Yonder. Also, before we get into this, I do want to let you know, but for the month of December, we are fundraising for the Trevor Project, a nonprofit organization focused on suicide prevention efforts among the LGBTQIA youth. So definitely check that out if you want to donate. Links in the chat somewhere. If you have questions, our lovely, lovely producer will help you. But let's jump into this. Last week we ended where Donna and everybody just had saved themselves from the Meep, the evil, evil Meep. And the family loves the doctor. Donna remembers. Her daughter Rose remembers, and they're both kind of Time Lord and let it go. But the doctor said that he would take Donna to go see Wilf, her grandfather, who was just down the road. Walk into a beautiful, beautiful new TARDIS where they have the circles back on the wall, which everybody loves the circles. And they're checking out new things. He has a new coffee pot, and Donna had just got fired from her last job because she dumped coffee all over her computer. She said she wouldn't do it. He gives Donna coffee, and lo and behold, there goes the coffee all over his console. So they fly off into the distance. Um, We start this episode with meeting Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton goes and sits under a tree, and crazy new TARDIS goes into a tree, and they meet him. And they give him kind of the idea for gravity, which, lo and behold, he misunderstood. And so now we're going to say Mavity from now and forever. So the Doctor and Donna end up crashing on this ship, jumping out the ship, smoking everything. Doctor sticks his sonic screwdriver into the door to reset things, and the ship runs away. Come to find out, he has a system that if they are in trouble, he normally has it off. If they are in trouble, the TARDIS will just ditch them pretty much at wherever they are until the trouble is gone. The Doctor and Donna kind of just start walking the ship, figure out there's nobody there, see this one little robot just inching its way, and they keep hearing this like sayings just every so often. They don't know what it means. They meet, or they go into the console room and nobody's there. Then they go into another room and they start switching things around. The Doctor goes into another room, starts turning knobs, and the Doctor and Donna again walk in and start talking. The conversation gets a little deep with Donna and the Doctor. She starts mentioning like his past and everything like that. And the Doctor and Donna on the other side starts mentioning Wilf and everything that she's been through and everything like that. We're going to break it up a little bit. What did you guys think about the start of this new episode? Because this is where we're really starting to see that Disney money come into play, because it was a lot of special effects. We'll start with you on this one, Toni.
I don't think the special effects is in. To me, it looked like what was it? I forget what year it was, but the Lost in Space remake, where this massive cavernous like spaceship that's obviously a green screen, and these folks are not reacting to anything. So I don't think the bulk of the money went to the spaceship. I do think it comes into play later with some of the practical effects. I think that's where this stuff, but even the practical, the actual sets that they've created are really beautiful and gorgeous. But I did like how it's kind of like this weird uncanny valley thing that's happening with like the huge cavernous, like long walkway where we find that robot. And I always love that about Doctor Who. I always think that that's what you should strive for, ironically, even though it is about like, this, grand adventure where there's no parameters in terms of like time and space and where you can go and what you can do really. But yeah, the budget is just always a little bit out of reach, and I think it always should be, just because it's like it is a little silly, and it always should be a little silly and a little just like slapdash. And I think that's when it's at its best. As far as the actual beginning of it, I always like these sort of like escape room episodes where it's like this impossible situation. We don't have the usual things that usually get us out of, these sort of like scrapes. We don't have the TARDIS. We don't have the Sonic. We just have ourselves. And now we have to figure out how to get out of this mess. We don't even know what the mess is. We have to figure out what the mess is and then how to get out of it. So I always like these kind of episodes. I think it's where, I think it's also just maybe just a really, I'm sure it came out of like a need for trying to keep the budget down, but also when like there's only two people for the majority of the episode. I think that that's always fantastic too, because then you just get a lot of time to spend with the Doctor or the companion. Yeah, so I always appreciate those kind of like where it's a very small contained like cast, and I don't have to have like these huge sweeping, sets with, hundreds, dozens of extras and all these new ensemble, these new supporting characters. I like when it's like this opportunity. And especially with opportunity to start talking about just some random things, like, when they are talking about, the more personal aspects of like time travel or where they've been or what they're scared about. Like, I loved it.
Yeah. Julie, what were your thoughts on this, the start of this episode and the vastness of that hallway and everything?
Well, yeah, I mean, like most Doctor Who episodes, my curiosity was piqued. I was like, what have they gotten themselves into this time? And I feel like what I like about Doctor Who is there's always episodes that like maybe have remnants of other episodes, but they're gonna be something different. But it's almost like, okay, it's a similar maybe feeling to a different episode, but not because there have been, like Toni was saying, I do like the 2-person episodes. They're interesting, and they just give them a chance to like really act and like react to things that aren't like necessarily one giant big bad, at least at first. And so that's always interesting. It's more about the human psyche and stuff like that, and then they get into their conversations where like you said, the conversations get a little deep, and I'm sitting there, but it was so interesting. It was a little bit jarring when they were having the conversation, because I was like, something's going on, because like they're having almost like these 2 conversations at once, and I was like, either like they time jumped, or I was just trying to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, as far as the set design goes, I think the hallway looked really cool. I liked the little robot, and I was just there with them trying to figure it out. And I mean, yeah, I do think like they did have a little bit of that special effects budget, because the way the ship like kind of reformed itself every so often with whatever those code words were or whatever. And then yeah, I think it looked really cool. And yeah, I was just excited to like get into another adventure, because it felt, like you said, it felt like very kind of classic Doctor Who, where you're like, oh, but I was also gonna say I kind of felt bad for Donna, because I was just like, she was like literally like 15 years away, and her first adventure back, of course something goes horribly wrong. But I mean, like, you knew that had to happen though, because like it's Doctor Who, like the companion is always gonna end up in a crazy situation. And I was like, Donna probably should have known better too, but I was just like, oh man, she was just trying to go see her grandpa now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, what do you think at the start of this episode?
So, not to dismiss the mavity of the situation. Ha! But the first thing I noticed when I went into the ship was, oh my god, and I don't know if I probably was the only one, but did anyone think that the robot looked like the robot from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie? Because
Yes.
he totally looked like it, and I was like, oh, we're doing a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie crossover. Cool. That actually weirdly works. And then it got really, really deep, and it was really, really unsettling. I think out of all of the procedural shows that I've watched, the Doctor Who blends X-Files and like all the really darker stuff with stuff for kids. It's like a good gateway to the stuff. Like, I put my kids in front of Doctor Who, and if I wanted my kids to become horror fans, I put them in front of this episode. And then when they got a little older, I put them in front of like X-Files or something like that, because it's the same procedural, very unsettling stuff, but the mysteries are very simple because it's only 2 characters. So the first thing is that I thought we were going to see something behind them when they were looking out into space, because being on the edge of the universe was very unsettling, and you have Tennant's charisma and his just absolute bonkersness, and then you have Donna's just total stoicness and playing the straight. But I thought there was going to be someone behind them, and then it was going to run away. And then when they got into the other thing, I was like, this is how it's a better show than most American shows like this, because it didn't go the way that you would expect. You would expect something to be behind them. It's like, no, you're watching them talk to each other, and then, like Julie said, you're thinking, and you're like, they did this something behind you, but they did it in a different way. And that, as always, just that just blew me. It was so unsettling. Oh, it was so unsettling. It was great.
Oh yeah, it was great. Before I continue with talking about the rest of this episode and everything, I do want to jump into the chat, because Cue Ball is here, our lovely.
Hey, Cue Ball!
Thank you.
So now we know that something's coming for you later, Kyle, probably. But Q does say, hello, everybody. He also says, because he was here last week, he was talking to a few people who are fans of Doctor Who from the early days, and they picked one Doctor and companion from each era. And he does agree with us from last week that David Tennant is a brilliant Doctor, and Rory is the perfect counterpart to David Tennant's Doctor. That would be something I would be very interested to see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, going on that a little bit, would you like to see Rory and David Tennant together? Kyle, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, actually, I think that would be really, really funny, because Rory is so much more of a straight man than most. Like, in terms of you have the slapstick guy and then you have the straight man, you have the guy that bounces. Rory is so much more of a straight man than the doctor, and that would be good. That would be good, but it would also be really tragic. Amy's end and David, the 10th Doctor finding out what happened to Amy Pond, especially after Don't Blink. I don't wish that on anyone. Period. I don't wish that on any fictional character. That one broke me. That one broke me bad. I almost didn't watch 12 because of that one.
Oh wow. Wow.
I
Toni,
don't like the Weeping Angels. The Weeping Angels are awful.
they're some of the scariest. Toni, what are your thoughts on this companionship that Q brought up?
Of Rory and Tennant. I guess it depends on which Rory we're talking about. Because if we're talking about Rory that shows up at the very beginning, like the very insecure Rory that even thought like Raggedy Man was, you know, I didn't care for insecure Rory. And I can only imagine like, you know, the insecurity level that he would reach if he's actually with David Tennant, who like, I think that like on a charisma scale that probably 10 and 11 are like right there. But in terms of like traditionally good looking, there's a debate there, you know. But yeah, I always felt like there was a missed opportunity that we only got to see a very, very small part of in the 50th anniversary, and that was the possible pairing of Claire Oswald and Tennant. I thought that could have been really interesting, especially if it had been one of the original like Oswald Oswald incarnations, the really smarty pants Clara Oswald, like we saw in the first two outings of Clara. I thought that could have been really interesting. But yeah, I always think it's really fun to think about like all the possible incarnations and the ways in which, you know, and canonically it works, right? Like, you know, that's, you know, the Impossible Girl, like just shredded herself through the timeline. It could happen. It should happen. I think at least once just to kind of see how that pairs out. But yeah, I always think it's really interesting to think about all the ways in which these companions that have only been limited by their linear experience of the Doctor and like the way that we've never been able to like bring them back to, and we do sometimes, like we're able to kind of like do that with like, you know, these really special moments and cameos, but I wish we could do like an extended version of it. I wish it was more than just these sort of like one and done episodes.
No, I agree right there with you. Julie, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that'd be really fun to see. I think their personalities would be like very but I agree with Toni, like later Rory would be better. But yeah, I think their personalities would be kind of complementary to each other. And I do think, yes, I agree with Kyle, like he would be broken upon finding out what happened to Amy, but I feel like they could kind of confide, like console each other and like, you know, maybe kind of bond over that in a way. Like, so I would love to see that, honestly. I think it would be very interesting to see those two together.
Oh yeah. No, I think it would be interesting. But I feel like David Tennant has a little bit more play that Rory is necessarily going to like jump into. Not to say that it wasn't playful and everything, but David Tennant has that just innate play with his companions. For instance, Catherine Tate, they just play very well off of each other. And I don't think Rory, however great he is, could do that necessarily. He would be more of like a Ajma Freeman to me. And I've already seen that, been there, done that. I just don't want the male version of that with Tennant.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, I get that too. But yeah. I don't know. I just think it could be fun.
But jumping back into Wild Blue Yonder, like Kyle brought up, they end up on the bridge of the ship and looking out into the end of the universe. No stars, no nothing. The ship is just randomly out there. And we keep seeing little things like as they're walking like through a little hole or like from their back of them, but expecting to be something there. Donna starts working on the controls in the other room, moving the panels. David starts doing the things, and they come in, like I said, and start having deep conversations. But then something's off, and both of them happen to mention that their arms are too long, which is a weird thing for both of them to say. and
Right.
going with the conversation. And then, surprisingly enough, the doctor doesn't pick it up right away, looks at Donna, or Donna looks at the doctor, the imposter doctor. We actually don't ever find out what this entity's name is in this.
That's true.
They never once mentioned what kind of entity this is.
Well, if you watch the subtitles, it says not things.
That's right. They're the not things. That's
Yeah.
true. It does say that. So maybe
the not things. We'll go with that.
they come from the void. So like
Yeah.
they're not anything. Like I think that's the whole point. Like I guess.
Yeah.
It's Catherine Tennant. It's Catherine Tate and David Tennant from another season.
It's from her show, not Doctor Who. It's from the Catherine Tate show. But Donna happens to look over at the doctor, and he stands up and has 2 giant arms. And at the same time, the doctor looks over at Donna, has not 2, 1 giant freaking arm. And he hears Donna scream. He screams for Donna. They meet in the middle. And then they discover that these not things are duplicating them. They have their memories. They're getting their looks. They're getting their mannerisms. They're just trying to figure out the body so much. They have a conversation about how many knees go on a knee. Is it 1 or is it 2 knees on a knee? And she does that weird little like chair thing, which kind of creeped me out. So they end up turning around and running from them. As the creatures are chasing them, they're getting bigger and bigger and kind of scarier. They have these really ugly teeth, and their eyes are bulging, and they're kind of running like dogs, and then they get bigger, and they get stuck. The doctor then discovers that the ship's captain initiated a self-destruct kind of in the ship after they get separated and like find each other. The ship's captain initiated a slow self-destruct sequence for the ship for these not things to pick up what the captain was doing. After the captain initiated that, ejected themselves out. So now the doctor and Donna have figured this out for themselves and have to speed up the process. They set up the process to go, and they start running back to the button that the computer that looks like the guy from
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Thank you. Hitchhiker's Guide. That's what he was there for. They start running, and the 2 Donnas keep tangling each other up. Then the doctor realizes the TARDIS will come back once the danger is settled and they figured it out. Doctor jumps into a ship and goes up to the 2 Donnas. He grabs one of the Donnas, and it's the wrong Donna. Right Donna is sitting there screaming, "Come back, it's me, come back." The doctor ends up doing a body scan, because I think that was his plan all along, just to scan whatever this not thing was. Chucks the not thing out, grabs Donna, and they fly off again. Now, the second part of this episode, there was a lot happening, a lot of chasing, a lot of CGI happening. What are your thoughts on this? We'll start with you on this one, Julie.
Well, first of all, the thing that I was gonna say when you were talking about chasing them was just, can we call it like body horror almost, where like just the way that their bodies are contorting and trying to change, and the like, it was very creepy, like the way that they were running down the hallway, and like they were like head in their legs basically. I was creeped out. Like that would look like it was straight out of a horror movie. I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, this one got dark. Like, not that they, there's a lot of them do get dark, but I was just like, oh wow, okay, all right, we're coming in hot here with these creepy. Anyway, and then yeah, like I mean, I did really like the episode because it was just intriguing. You didn't know what was gonna happen next, and then when they, like you said, when they figured out that they were like like one step ahead of them, basically, then they had to basically be one step ahead of them, and like of the clones or the doubles or whatever you want to call them. And I was like, how are they gonna do that? Because you're like, yeah, but so then they figured out, to slow down. And I was like, oh wow, that's genius, but that's Doctor Who for you. And then Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch. Like I said, it was scary, it was creepy, it was fascinating, it was, all of those things. And oh gosh, there was one other thing I was gonna say, but now I can't remember. Anyway, that's what happens.
If you
You just get
remember,
too excited and then you're like,
exactly. You get too excited, then you're like, wait. But if you remember, definitely interject. We will come back to you. Tony, what are your thoughts on the second half of the episode? Did you like the aliens and the chases and the body horror that Julie just said?
This is probably my favorite trick of RTD. He has a fixation on this idea about the horror of nothing. So like the
mm,
shadows that we think are shadows,
Oh yeah.
the things that are invisible that we can't see, but that definitely we always feel, like the little prick on the back of our necks. And it's all
mm,
explained because there is actually something there in the nothing, whether it is in darkness or in light, and we just can't, or the things that have no form and that are just waiting for us to
Mhm.
actually give it some sort of
that's a good
concept of
point.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
And he's done it so many times, and the way that he's been able to do it in a variety of ways is like really, really cool and awesome. But I think if we're talking about world building, and like it's like the opposite of the Star Trek philosophy, right? Like Star Trek is very much like all aliens are humanoids. They all have two legs, two arms, a face, and just maybe some other kind of thing that differentiates them. Either the ears or a notch on the bridge of the nose or something. And in the Doctor Who universe, where it is so expansive, the idea that even alien species are out there that are actually without form, without, some kind of like concept that makes us comfortable as humans. And those are always the most terrifying episodes that he writes, because it's right. Like we are terrified by the stuff that we can't quantify and that we can't relate to. Um, so I absolutely love whenever he does this. Um, I also just love when it's an opportunity to kind of like talk about the nature of not only the characters but just like existence. So like the idea of like, well, what came first? There's this whole idea of like, they even try to figure it out within the episode, which I don't think they answered. Like, were the nothings or the not things actually evil to begin with, or were they just a reflection of like the worst parts of humanity, and now they have this instinct and inclination to like go out there and like cause havoc and chaos and like just do terrible things to the rest of existence out there. It's a question. It's a horrifying question. So I really like all the things that he's able to kind of touch on, and the fact that he's doing it in between like these really like silly moments. Because like, yeah, the moments where like faces and bodies are contorted, at some points they're just straight up silly, and I'm just like, that shouldn't be so funny, but it is, because it's like a fun house smear. And some of the parts are genuinely creepy, where it's like, I don't need to see that. Yeah, I don't need to the distortion of jaws and fingers and or I'm like, no, no, thank you. But I think that that's like a really great point about just like the things that we find scary. Sometimes they are funny, sometimes they are just straight up horrifying. Um, but yeah, I think the entire concept overall is just like, I was really, really pleased with this episode. I was really, really
mm.
pleased with like, bringing something back that I do love about, RTD, but also just like overall as a Doctor Who episode, I'm very, very pleased with this.
Oh yeah, no, and I agree with you. RGD is great with that, with the Vashta Narada in the library and the midnight with the creature out there. Like he is fantastic at that.
Yeah,
Kyle,
this made me remember what I loved about RTD. I was like, oh
right
yeah.
there, we are gonna once we are gonna get to a topic that was brought up that I saw in an interview earlier today, and I want to get your guys' thought about it, but we'll touch about at that at the end. Kyle, what are your thoughts about the second half of the episode?
So I loved how we went initially at the top from, oh, this is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy crossover, to, oh, this is an Attack on Titan crossover. That definitely happened. And I was very like, oh, okay. And then, but the thing that I want to bring up that a lot of people might not be familiar with is analog horror. Because this whole episode had a very real analog horror vibe. And this is something that's really big. And I don't know if it's Disney money or if it's just RTD picking up on things because he's building off of his previous work. But with analog horror, and there's a very specific series called the Mandela Catalog. And the Mandela Catalog, it's just a produced fan group thing. It's just a produced thing. These original stories, all the kid YouTubers and Gen Z loves it, but it's genuinely unsettling because it's about a world where everyone has a doppelganger, but the doppelgangers are drooped faces or three different hands, and it's like, and that's what this really, when you guys were talking about it, that's what this really made me think of, except instead of it being the way, like, I really would have loved now to see RTD just go full body horror on it, because in this analog horror series, they don't just go full, they're like, the jaw just like, and then they just like the eyes go black and everything just drops down, and it's genuinely unsettling if people are really creeped out by it. So it was really cool to kind of see them tap into that a little bit, because it was a nice way to see somebody, like, observe it. And as for the psychological stuff that comes with it, I mean, the conversations between them and the way that they arrived at I love that the captain was a she. I loved that. I don't know why I love that, but I loved it. The way that they arrived at the conclusion was just so pure Doctor Who. I mean, like, of course, in order to speed up and save yourself where you have to go fast, you have to go slow. And I just absolutely love that. Very fresh, dealing with stuff that a lot of new fans are going to be very familiar with the analog horror stuff, and the body dysmorphia, the faces and stuff, like, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Really quick, Q did hydrate for us. Hydrate, everybody. So cheers.
Thanks, Q.
Thanks,
Also,
Q.
I remembered what I was gonna say.
Really quick before we get to you, Tinspiration agrees, says that the analog horror makes him think of Us is a very good representation of analog horror, stuff like that for Tinspiration. Julie, what were you going to say?
Well, this was just adding on my thoughts about the rest of the episode. And I just remember that I was thinking how much I love when there are doubles, and like the plot, like the little plot line there is that you have to figure out who is the real one and who is not. And what I loved about this episode is that, like, it was like you had to figure out like what they were going to use to figure out who was the real Doctor and who was the real Donna, because they couldn't use, like, stuff from their life because they already knew everything from their life. So it was so fascinating, and I loved the way that they did it, where it was just like, in the end, it was just the way in which they responded to things, and not necessarily what they said, but just like the way in which it was said. So like, I thought that was really cool. Like, and I just, like I said, I love watching a good, like, episode where there's doubles of somebody. So any show, but yeah.
Oh yeah, she did a great way, because we've never really had the Doctor or a companion in the same episode. One, I give it to Catherine Tate and David Tennant, just being solo episode, 60th special. He's just like, this is yours. It's all you, just you, go. Brilliant of them, but also he's very smart in, like, seeing Tana's progression, even though she hasn't been there in so long, of her actually being as brilliant as he always said she was.
Yes.
Not having to be the Dr. Donna, with her switching those consoles, and then having the Doctor take off his tie, and then her noticing, being like, your tie's gone. And like, little things are great tricks of what Russell T Davies does, and I love it.
Agree.
So they end up getting out of the ship, and they end up going and meeting Wilf. We come out of the TARDIS, and Wilf is sitting right there in a wheelchair, and he gives that Wilf look that he always gives to Donna. Goes and hugs him, because she knew that no matter how long they'd be away, that Wilf would be sitting down there with his thermos waiting for her, and he was. She runs and hugs him, and as she's hugging him, David Tennant walks out, and then you just get that look of love for the Doctor that Wilf has always had him, and that the Doctor has always had for Wilf. They hug, and then Wilf's like, well, your family's protected, they're safe, and then we just start seeing explosions and people arguing and a plane going down, and they push Wilf towards the TARDIS. Don't know if they actually got into the TARDIS, but towards the TARDIS, and episode ends. Do you think that was a cool, quick little snippet that we got to go into the third episode? Kyle, we'll start with you.
I mean, yeah, it's a great stinger to lead into. First of all, let's circle back because oh my god, when I saw the two of them hug, I just thought of that one scene where he was just like, oh, he was crying, and it made me it brought back so many emotions. I was feeling it in my chest. Um, but seeing first of all, when they fell out of the kitchen, and all the people in the kitchen were arguing, I was like, well, listen, let's give them a shot. As someone who works in the kitchen, I've had some fights like that. And as everyone knows, with the bear, if you're on the expo line, you yes chef that. And then I was like, no, something sus here. And then when everything else just it was a great little teaser. And it was the best part about Doctor Who teasers is that they really don't give you a lot of information because it's just so like it's just there. It's its own form of intelligent storytelling because sometimes the scariest thing to do is just randomly present somebody with like, oh, I'm gonna stand here. Like, what's the whole purpose of me standing here? Or oh, this thing is gonna come at you, and you just don't have any time to react. Just get you that fight or flight, and that's where we were, and I loved it.
Nice. I agree completely with you. I completely agree. Julie, what were your thoughts on this little snippet?
I also just wanted to say, like, I also was basically crying when we saw Wilf because I was just like, yeah, it brought back a lot of good memories, and also you just like love the man, like who doesn't? Like you love the man like the Doctor loves the man, like, and when he says hello, me old soldier, I'm just like, lost it. Also, knowing that Bernard Cribbins, the actor, passed away like not long after he filmed that episode, I was just like. And like you could just feel all the emotions because then like David Tennant posted a really nice tribute about him and all this stuff, and I was just like, no. Anyway, so yeah, loved that. But yes, you know what I think Doctor Who is always quite good at giving a really good cliffhanger, and basically making it so that you have to watch the next episode. Now, granted, like they don't do this every single time because it depends on if they're planning on having a continuation for the next episode, if it's like a two-parter or something. But when they do, they definitely do it where you're like, oh crap, what's happening now? Like I gotta keep watching. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a fine little segue because you're gonna find out what happens in the next episode. So I mean, I was a little sad that they cut, the moment with Wilf a little short. Like, I felt like I wanted more of that, but what are you gonna do? Stuff's happening. The universe is exploding. What else is new in Doctor Who? So.
I mean, it's Doctor Who. You're gonna find it. Toni, what were your thoughts about seeing Wilf in this little part that we got left with?
Well, I do want to backtrack to the one thing that I really didn't like about this episode, and I really feel like it's the part where the Doctor picks the wrong Donna, and Donna does not give him any shit for it. And granted,
Oh
like
my god.
the spaceship is blowing up and they're on their way, but I really felt like Donna would have been ragging on him until the end of their days about how dare you not know that it was me. I just felt like it was such like an obvious character moment that it could have only taken like, one quick drop line and I would have been satisfied. Like, yeah, that feels right. That feels like she would have been like, you big idiot. And he would have been like, yeah, my bad. Sorry. Never again. I will never do that to you. Then again, we'll never be on the edge of the universe again. But I felt like, okay, I get it. We have to get to other things, but I just felt like it was such an obvious character moment that they just didn't address at all. So I really, really didn't like that. If I had to name the one thing that I don't like about this episode, it would be that. As for seeing Wilf, I mean, RIP to Bernard Cribbins. I mean, I love the fact that these specials up to this point have really felt complete. They felt like everyone that needs to be here is here. And it would have been a really terrible thing, albeit understandable, especially because of older actors that, where their health has affected them to the point where they're no longer able to work. Like, of course, it's always that thing of like, we understand it, we get it, we're ready for you to like explain it away as like, oh, granddad's in the home and he's too far away to visit. But when you can literally go anywhere and everywhere, there's really no excuse. And I really do love that they were able to make this happen. just because it does make the entire world, Sylvia's back. There's no reason why Granddad shouldn't be back as well. And I just, and even, even in later episodes, I think that's the one thing where I can say, like, it feels like everyone that's here, like, is here and should be here. And we don't have to explain it away. Like, and maybe that's like the Marvel fan in me that's always just like so quick to like explain it. Like, well, guys, obviously so-and-so is very busy with other things that are happening elsewhere. And that's why they're not in this movie. So I really appreciate Doctor Who. Like, if you're going to do a special, if you're going to go through the trouble of doing this, like, do it right, do it properly. Yeah, so super appreciated that.
I mean, and I completely agree with you. If Will wouldn't have been in this episode, I mean, rest in peace, Bernard Cribbins. It was wonderful that this is one of the last things you got to do, because you could tell that he thoroughly enjoyed being a part of Doctor Who. So that's just so good. But I agree with you. Like, it felt complete, and I feel like Doctor Who has always been able to do that, especially with these specials. Like, look at the 50th. Everybody was back, pretty much. Like, you name it, they try to be there. One thing I did want to touch on before we get to final remarks, and a little controversy that just popped up today in the Doctor Who universe. So David Tennant, or the Doctor, spreads salt in front of these creatures to tell them they have to count every single grain and before they can pass. So he played a game with them. Towards the end of this episode, he says that he regrets doing that. And honestly see that in his head. Do you think this is also a good little teaser for the next episode, if you guys have seen it? Toni, we'll start with you on this one.
I don't even think it teases. I don't think it's a tease for the next episode, and I have seen it. I think it's a tease for the upcoming season. I think there's, yeah, I think that there's way too many things that could be possibly in play whenever you're talking about. He's talking about the rifts in between, physical and like magic, and like, that there's an obvious influence between like voicing something like a superstition at the edge of the universe. Like, there could be some real effects that, could be a problem for namely him, but for the entire universe. And I think that that's, to me, I took that as, yeah, a tease for whoever the big bad is going to be for the first season of for the newest season. But I really love that idea. I really love that, Doctor Who. I hate when shows paint themselves into a universe because they're so obsessed with their own rules. And it's like, yes, have your rules. Like, we all love like hard magic, and that's nice to like have things very defined, and so that way we understand this universe. But especially when with a show that has been around for so long, with so many different iterations of these rules and like what you can and can't do when it comes to time and space, it's like, yeah, have a little fun with it. Go ahead and introduce, this idea of superstition and magic actually having an effect on, it's a very sci-fi show. It's a very science-y kind of show, even though time travel is like the magic of the sci-fi genre. I love how they've started to introduce these small moments, and it's not like this. It's not this thing that just shows up in the 11th hour. It's this thing that actually is sprinkled along the way. So that way, when the thing finally happens, we're like, oh, that was a nice, organic, gradual buildup. It feels like that's exactly as it should have happened. So I'm very excited. I don't know what it means yet, but I'm very excited.
Yes, I know. I'm super excited. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this superstition at the end of the world?
Toni actually made me think about something, because I don't think it's a teaser for the next episode either. But I now that you make me think about it, not to quote the MCU, but science is magic maybe science is magic that we, magic is science that we just don't understand yet. So I think that given the prevalence of a very sci-fi edged fandom universe, if you will, not just with Doctor Who, but everywhere, seeing Doctor Who's take on it would be really cool, because you have DC's done it, Marvel's done it, Star Wars is essentially sci-fi magic. But to have Doctor Who, at least to my limited knowledge of, I'm vaguely aware of 1 through 8, and some of the big Finish audio stuff. But jumping into the new stuff, to my knowledge does not have a lot of mention of that. It might have some vague mentions, but it doesn't really build on it. So to see them flesh that out, that might be the way to go to draw in a whole group of audiences. And boy howdy, if they can get Catherine Hahn in there and she'll just sing
Ooh.
Agatha all along,
Mm.
you know, because it's Disney.
Oh yeah.
And they'll just tie it all. No, truth be told, but Catherine, now I suddenly want to see Catherine Hahn and David Tennant do something in a project, because that would be amazing. You know, Disney, I call, because putting them together, that's an idea. That's a
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Julie, what are your thoughts about this?
I just want to say I had not even thought about that, but I would love to see Catherine Hahn in the Doctor Who universe. Like that would be phenomenal. I think she would be great somewhere in there. Like, and now I want to see it. Now I need that to happen. Petition, anybody who's got ties at Disney. But no. So I think the superstition thing. Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually watched the third episode yet, so I'm trying to, I don't know. I wanted to. I was tempted, but I'm kind of going one at a time here so that I'm not, I don't know, it's also so it's fresh in my mind, but also so I'm not like just binging it all and then kind of forgetting stuff, you know, too. So, but so I don't know if it has anything to do with the third episode. But I know Doctor Who, and they like to foreshadow. So yeah, I agree with all of what everyone is saying, that it definitely is going to come into play somewhere in the future, I think, because you don't just drop a line like that, especially at like the end of an episode, and not have it be like meaning something. So yeah, and I think it's definitely very, very interesting to see what they come up with, because I know there have been some like supernatural type things and entities that they've come across, but yeah, not a whole lot. So it could be interesting to see how they do that. And I don't know, so like if he did invoke a superstition at the end of the universe or whatever, like is that nearly a bad thing? Because that means like they could actually use salt to protect them. I don't know, maybe. But who knows how it all works, because again, we don't know what the rules are and all that. So yeah, could be fun to see.
Sorry, I just had this image of, you know, just they do that. He sprinkles the salt, and then Doctor Who, the TARDIS lands, and you hear "Carry on, my wayward son" off in the distance. And the
And then
apologist,
Super Hulock really comes to life in real life.
every cringe millennial just drops dead on the spot.
Right. Oh my god.
So we are getting close to the end. I do want to bring up a controversy that happened in the Hooniverse today, but to give you time, Toni, Cue Ball redeemed "You're So Punny" and he chose you. So if you want to think about it, I'll bring up this controversy really quick. So we are loving that the 60th special has brought back David Tennant, has brought back Will, Sylvia, Catherine Tate, and everything like that. Well, there was just a con or a convention or something, and Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper were there. They just happened to ask Billy Piper. She's been back several times, or Christopher Eccleston, if he would ever come back, and he innately, automatically said fire Russell T Davis, Phil Collinson, Joel Collins, Julie Gardner, Jane Tanter, and all of them, and that is the only way he will ever touch the show ever again.
Oh.
Whoa.
Then they asked Billy Piper, and she was like, obviously, I've been back several times. I would love to come back even more, but I don't know if I'm welcome. So, what do you think about him being so divisive from Russell T Davis, who he gave credit for bringing the Doctor back in with him and Billy? We'll start with you on this one, Julie.
Well, I mean, so I don't know what happened. Like, I know there was stuff going on with him and some of the show runners and writers, producers, whatever at the time, because that's why he left. That's why he was there for only a short time. So I know that some stuff went down, but I don't really know what. So I'm like, I mean, like, I was Russell T Davies one of the people that he had a problem with, and I guess maybe it was, because I mean, like, I think that he's kind of one of those people who, like, he's gonna give credit where credit is due, but like, I guess that doesn't mean he wants to work with them again, you know, like, but kind of a bomb to drop. I'm like, okay, interesting, especially since, Russell T is the one that we all love. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize that he said that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it
And
just came out,
also,
and I'm just like, oh.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Like,
Toni, do you have your pun? And also, what do you think about this?
I had to Google this, and I'm not ashamed that I had to Google it because it's actually a pretty sweet one. But I'm gonna use this all the time now. I heard a great time travel joke tomorrow.
That was good.
nice. That's
That
a good
was
one.
good.
The internet comes through.
I might steal that one actually.
I like it. I like it.
Because I was a little tardy to getting a
But what do you think about this Christopher Eccleston?
I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I definitely saw the clip that's circulating, which is him saying like, fire these like 4 or so people. And I think I didn't recognize some of the names. But I am assuming that it's like 4 of the major like folks that are behind the scenes. I don't know. That's the only part I've seen yet. So I'm really hesitant to comment on something where I'm like, I don't know if maybe he's remembering the thing he said all those years ago. Does he still feel that way? I'm not sure. If that's still how he feels, which is, why else would you bring up something that, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Why else bring it up unless it's still exactly how you feel? And as far as the controversy, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, it would be great if anyone who ever came together to put together the stuff that we love, fiction, art, whatever, that they all liked each other and that they were all still friends and sent each other Christmas cards and happy birthday texts. But unfortunately, it's not the way that it goes down. And some folks just really, even though we love them and the art that they made for us, like, yeah, sometimes people just don't like each other. I really hope it's not indicative of like a really larger issue. I really do hope that this is just like personality friction. Because God
Yeah.
forbid that this is something like much more extreme and serious where it's like, oh no, that person is legit, like not a good person. Or these people are legit not good people and they've just managed to kind of like slip through the cracks and not face accountability. So that's like the worst case scenario in my mind. But as for right now, I'm going to look into it a bit more, see what the deal is. But as far as I can tell, I don't begrudge Christopher Eccleston from ever, standing, just by his own word and by his own opinions and, having no qualms about it. I wonder where he would be if he was someone who didn't do that. I feel like he'd probably work more, which is a sad state of affairs, when it comes to entertainment. But it's very, we've all been there. We've all seen the folks that are like, yeah, I won't comment on that because it's like, oh yeah, because you still want to work because unfortunately the folks that
Yeah.
you're talking about are still in higher places than you and can still make your life a little more complicated because it's a very interpersonal field, entertainment. Like it's all about who you know, and not only who you know, but like what people say about you or what they can even surmise about you. So yeah, I don't begrudge him at all for having an opinion where even if it is just personality friction of like, yeah, I don't like those folks and don't want to work with them ever again. Like, and we've all had those folks where we're like, I don't think that person's evil. I don't think they're eating babies, but also I wouldn't mind if I never talked to them again because we didn't get along great, professionally. We were not good professionally together. So who knows? Who knows? I'm gonna look into it further.
I'll find that interview and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
I found it somewhere and I'll send it to you.
I saw
Also,
the clip, like I said, but I've only seen the little bit of it. So now
there's
I'm like,
more to it. I'll send you the full thing. I got
panels are like an hour long. I'm like, well, what's leading up to that? Like,
I do want to say before I get to you on this topic, Kyle, Cue Ball says, well done, Toni. Love your glasses.
Aww.
But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this? And then we're gonna
not to be short, but I basically Toni said everything that I would have wanted to say more and far more eloquently than I would. The only thing that I would have to add is that Christopher Eccleston is definitely the kind of person, the one thing that would concern me is that he's the kind of person that, yeah, he does say what's on his mind and speak his word because, he's been through a lot. And so to have him say that so abruptly is concerning. Not to be blunt or just give those one-liners that make so many people mad, but it's very concerning. And I really hope that people with more knowledge on that issue than I do will find out and share more of that. But honestly, everything that Toni said, 100%. But it's concerning to hear that from someone. So
It is, and I'll send you guys stuff, and we will talk more. But we are out of time, guys. So I want to get you guys' final thoughts on this episode, your excitement on next week's episode, and I want you to let everybody know where they can find you out there. We'll start with you on this one, Toni.
Yeah, you guys can find me on all the social media at the Toni Sanchez, Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z.
Nice. And what did you final thoughts on the episode? Are you excited for next week?
Oh my God, I'm so fun. No, I've been very pleased with all the specials so far. I just really I want more. That's basically like the quickest, most succinct way I can say it. I want more. Why is it only 3 hour, like 3 1-hour specials? I want all the specials. I want all the things. I want all the seasons. And David Tennant should do nothing but Doctor Who until he passes on from this world.
Well, the third episode is 1 hour and 1 minute, so you get a little bit more time.
Ooh, that's so generous of them.
I know. Kyle, where can they find you out there? What are your final thoughts on this episode? And are you excited for next week's episode?
Final thoughts. Absolutely a fantastic return to Doctor Who. Am I excited for this next episode? I might be more excited for the new Doctor than I was for 13, and that is saying something. That is genuinely saying something. And then where you can find me, you can find me at Carolyn, CAROLYN, IN Fandom, FANDOM on Twitter. On the Bird app, you can find me at Kyle Poddig on Blue Sky. You can find me at Caroline Arts on Threads. And one day I will make all of those a singular thing so that I can have solid branding. But Twitter X, Bird app won't let me change anything because it's going down in a flaming pile of TARDIS. So
yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you for being here. Julie, where can they find you, and what are your thoughts on this episode? And are you excited, because I know you haven't seen it, about the third episode?
Yeah, well, I thought it was a great, solid episode. I really have nothing else to say about it. I loved it. I've been loving this little journey into the 60th. I'm very excited about next week. I do want to bring something up, because I think we were going to mention that we've all been mispronouncing the 15th Doctor's name.
Was about to bring that up.
And I wanted to apologize, like he'll ever watch this, but I wanted to apologize to Shuti Gatwa. That is how you say his name. So just throwing it out there in case anybody doesn't know yet, because like it doesn't sound like it doesn't look like it sounds at all. So yes, anyway, but I'm looking forward to that too, as the 15th Doctor. But I'm very much looking forward to this third episode, see how they tie it all together. And supposedly I think I heard the regeneration is gonna happen. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, but I'm just saying that's what I'm hoping. So
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yes, I know. Spoiler. No, well, I mean, I can say what I'm hoping to see, right? Because I haven't seen anything yet. So, yeah. Oh, and you can find me on Instagram at Raelyn, JRAELYN, and TikTok at JRayLady, JRAELADY. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm your host, Erric Ramirez. You can find me on all social media platforms at Heartless7. That's HARTL, the number 3, SS7. And totally love this episode, enjoying the 60th as much as the rest of us are. I don't see anybody really saying bad things on Rotten Potatoes. Scores are stupid high. Potatoes. Rotten Tomatoes. Scores are
tomatoes, you know.
No.
And the third episode, super excited for it. But thank you guys all for joining me tonight. And thank you guys out there for watching with us. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to be talking about the third episode of the 60th anniversary special. And join our Discord to keep this conversation going, as well as subscribing to all of our platforms at Nom Talk Network. And stay tuned for next week. But until then, I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, and we'll see you then. Alamzi.
Alamzi.